Ladies and gentlemen, let me make something crystal clear today. Being a strong woman is not about having an attitude, it's about having standards. Too often, when a woman walks into a room with her head held high, she's immediately judged. Not because she's done anything wrong, but because she dares to carry herself with confidence. Society has conditioned people to feel threatened by a woman who knows who she is and isn't afraid to show it. That confidence is quickly mistaken for arrogance, and she's labeled as too much before she even speaks. But here's the truth. Confidence is not an attitude, it's a reflection of self-awareness. A confident woman doesn't think she's better than anyone else. She just doesn't think she's less. She doesn't need to prove her worth because she already knows it. And that quiet, grounded sense of self is often misunderstood by those who rely on external validation to feel whole. Confidence doesn't come from loudness or bravado, it comes from inner work, pain, healing, and resilience. It's built through the challenges she's survived, the lessons she's learned, and the promises she's kept to herself when no one was watching. A strong woman's confidence is earned, not gifted. And that's why it intimidates those who haven't done the same work. People who haven't found their own voice will always feel uncomfortable around someone who speaks with clarity and certainty. A confident woman doesn't raise her tone to be heard, she raises her presence. She knows how to take up space without apology. That presence is often misunderstood as an attitude because people aren't used to women who don't shrink themselves. When a man is confident, he's seen as a leader. When a woman is confident, she's seen as difficult. That double standard has silenced generations of powerful women. And it's time we call it what it is. Insecurity disguised as judgment. A woman who knows her worth doesn't need permission to show up fully. Confidence is about self-trust. It's about knowing that your voice matters, your opinions are valid, and you deserve to be in every room you enter. When a woman speaks with confidence, she's not being sassy, bossy, or dramatic. She's simply refusing to minimize herself to fit someone else's comfort zone. And maybe that's the real issue. Her presence demands others to rise, to do better, think deeper, and level up. And instead of rising, some people point fingers and call it an attitude. But make no mistake, confidence is not an attitude. It's a standard she sets for how she carries herself in a world that keeps trying to dim her light. Boundaries are not walls, they are doors with locks. A strong woman doesn't close herself off from the world, but she does decide who gets access and how much. Boundaries are not about being cold, distant, or difficult. They are about protecting your peace, your energy, and your time. Setting boundaries is not a sign of selfishness, it's an act of self-respect. For far too long, women have been taught that being nice means being available, agreeable, and accommodating even when it costs us our mental and emotional well-being. But being kind doesn't mean being a doormat. There is nothing kind about betraying yourself to keep others comfortable. Strong women understand that saying no is not a rejection, it's redirection. It's self-preservation. People who benefit from you having no boundaries are the ones who will call you rude when you finally start enforcing them. That's how you know you're doing the right thing. The moment a woman starts protecting her space, her time and her energy, people who were once in control start to panic. But she doesn't owe them access just because they're used to taking without permission. Boundaries teach people how to treat you. They're your personal rulebook for relationships, work, love, and life. When you have no boundaries, you leave yourself open to being used, manipulated, or taken for granted. But when you set clear, firm standards, you send a message: this is what I will accept and this is what I won't. A strong woman is not afraid to disappoint others if it means staying true to herself. She knows that being liked is not the same as being respected, and she chooses respect every time. People may call her cold or too guarded, but she knows better. She knows she's just not willing to sacrifice her sanity for someone else's convenience. And here's the truth: boundaries don't push people away, they filter out the wrong ones. The right people will honor your limits, the wrong ones will test them. And the strongest women don't waste time explaining or convincing. They draw the line once, and if it's crossed, they move accordingly. No drama, no second guessing. She doesn't set boundaries because she's bitter, she sets them because she's healed. She doesn't need chaos to feel needed or guilt to feel connected. She has outgrown the need to be everything to everyone. Now she chooses to be everything to herself first, and only then does she decide who gets the overflow. Self-worth isn't about arrogance, it's about knowing who you are at your core and refusing to settle for anything that doesn't align with that truth. When a woman discovers her worth, everything changes. Her decisions, her relationships, her goals all start to reflect a deeper understanding of what she deserves. She stops chasing love, attention, or approval because she knows she already has value without needing to prove it. High standards aren't about perfectionism, they're about clarity. A woman with self-worth knows what she brings to the table, and she refuses to accept crumbs when she's capable of a feast. She's not asking for too much, she's just not willing to accept too little. She doesn't raise her standards to intimidate people, she raises them to protect her peace and align with her purpose. When your self-worth is intact, you no longer tolerate inconsistent effort, mixed signals, or one-sided relationships. You understand that love, respect, and effort are not optional, they are basic. You'd rather be alone in wholeness than together in dysfunction. That's why strong women with self-worth are often misunderstood. They're not picky, they're just not desperate. A woman with high standards isn't interested in begging anyone to treat her right. She doesn't audition for anyone's approval. Her energy isn't spent trying to convince someone of her value because she already knows her value is not up for debate. The way she loves herself sets the tone for how others will love her. And the beauty of self-worth is that it creates boundaries naturally. You stop needing to explain why you won't settle, you just don't. You stop justifying why certain behavior is unacceptable, you simply remove yourself. When you know your value, your standards speak for you, even in silence. It's not about being harsh, it's about being intentional. A woman with high standards leads with grace, but she doesn't compromise on respect. She knows that lowering her standards doesn't increase her chances of being loved, it only increases her chances of being mistreated. And that's a cost she's no longer willing to pay. Her standards aren't a shield, they're a mirror. They reflect how she sees herself, how she values her time, and how she prioritizes her well-being. Anyone who wants to be in her life has to rise to meet her, not pull her down to settle. Because once a woman taps into her self-worth, she never looks back, she only looks forward with vision and strength. There comes a moment in every strong woman's life when she decides she will no longer apologize for who she is. Not for her voice, not for her strength, not for the way she takes up space. That moment is a turning point, a declaration that her power is not up for debate or dilution. She refuses to dim her light just to make others feel more comfortable in their shadows. Strength in a woman is often mistaken for being difficult or intimidating. But what people fail to realize is that her strength was forged through struggle, through healing, through battles no one else saw. She didn't wake up powerful, she earned that power. And now that she carries it, she's not about to say sorry for it. She refuses to apologize for speaking up when something doesn't feel right, for choosing herself when others expected her to shrink, for walking away when her worth wasn't recognized. That's not being dramatic. That's being self-aware, self-respecting, and self-protecting. Her strength is not aggression, it's alignment with who she truly is. For far too long, women have been encouraged to be soft, polite, and pleasing even when it meant betraying their own needs. But strength doesn't mean losing softness. It means knowing when to be gentle and when to stand firm. A strong woman is not either, or she is both grace and grit, and she honors both sides unapologetically. People who can't handle a strong woman often try to reduce her by making her feel guilty about her power. They'll say she's too much, too independent, or too outspoken. But those words are just projections from people who feel small in comparison. A strong woman no longer internalizes that. She understands that someone else's insecurity is not her responsibility to manage. Her strength doesn't mean she's never vulnerable, it means she's no longer willing to compromise herself for approval. She's not cold, she's clear. She's not closed off, she's choosy with her energy. She has learned that the right people will never ask her to apologize for being strong. They will recognize that strength and respect it. When she walks into a room, she brings presence. When she speaks, she brings conviction. And when she moves with purpose. None of that requires an apology. Her strength is not an accident, it's her birthright. And she no longer sees it as something she needs to hide, soften, or explain. Ambition in a woman has always made the world uncomfortable. The moment she sets goals beyond the ordinary, she's questioned, criticized, or warned to slow down. But let's be clear, ambition is not a flaw, it's a fire. It's the inner drive that pushes her to build, to grow, to create, and to lead. A strong woman doesn't run from that fire, she feeds it. Too many women have been told to stay quiet, stay small, stay safe. But ambition doesn't fit in boxes. It doesn't wait for permission. A woman with ambition isn't arrogant, she's aligned. She knows what she wants, and she's not afraid to put in the work to get it. Her goals aren't a threat, they're a reflection of her purpose. People often confuse ambition with selfishness, as if wanting more means caring less. But ambition, for a strong woman, isn't about stepping on others, it's about rising in her own lane. It's about becoming the best version of herself, not to outshine others, but to fulfill the vision she holds for her life. She doesn't apologize for dreaming big or thinking differently. She's not asking for approval, she's making moves. She knows that being ambitious doesn't mean being disconnected from love or emotion. In fact, her ambition is often fueled by a desire to provide, protect, uplift, and inspire. It's heart-driven, not ego-driven. When a man is ambitious, he's called a leader. When a woman is ambitious, she's often called too much, unrealistic, or intimidating. But she's learned to ignore those labels. Her ambition isn't for everyone to understand, it's for her to follow. She has vision and she's not afraid to go after it, no matter how many doubts surround her. Her ambition doesn't make her hard, it makes her hungry for growth. She welcomes challenge, embraces change, and isn't afraid of failure. Because to her, failure isn't a full stop, it's a comma. A pause to learn, to regroup, and to go again. That's the mark of a woman who knows what she's here for. She dreams without limits, plans with intention, and moves with discipline. That doesn't make her too intense, it makes her powerful. Her ambition is not a flaw, it's her fuel. And it's the very thing that will not only change her life, but also inspire every woman watching her to do the same. Assertiveness and aggression are not the same, though they're often confused, especially when it comes to women. A strong woman isn't aggressive, she's assertive. She speaks with purpose, not with hostility. She expresses her thoughts with clarity, not with force. But because she's firm in her voice and boundaries, people who aren't used to directness label it as aggression. Being assertive means standing up for yourself without putting others down. It means communicating what you need, what you expect, and what you will not tolerate calmly, clearly, and confidently. A strong woman doesn't raise her voice to win. She raises her standards and lets her presence do the talking. She understands that control doesn't come from dominating, it comes from self-discipline. Aggression comes from a place of insecurity. Assertiveness comes from a place of self-awareness. A woman who is sure of herself doesn't need to prove her power through intimidation. Her energy speaks for itself. She doesn't talk over people. She doesn't threaten or belittle. She simply makes her position known and she stands by it unapologetically. Assertiveness is a skill and strong women have developed it through experience. It takes courage to say no without guilt. It takes emotional intelligence to express disagreement without disrespect. And it takes inner strength to walk away from situations that try to twist your assertiveness into something negative. But she does it because her peace is non-negotiable. When a woman is assertive, she sets the tone. She shows others how she expects to be treated. She stops tolerating passive-aggressive behavior, manipulation, or vague communication. She requires honesty, she values directness, and she gives what she expects in return: mutual respect and transparency. What's often labeled as aggression is simply a woman refusing to be silenced. It's her decision to speak when it would have been easier to stay quiet, to lead when she was expected to follow, to demand clarity when others were used to her confusion. Assertiveness is not loud, it's decisive, and it rattles those who benefit from her silence. She no longer softens her words just to avoid discomfort. She doesn't play small so others can feel big. Her assertiveness is not a flaw, it's a boundary, a standard, a language of power. And while not everyone will like it, those who truly respect her will value it. Because assertiveness, when rooted in self-respect, is a form of love for herself and for others. A strong woman no longer entertains low-effort behavior. She's done settling for the bare minimum. She's done making excuses for people who consistently show her they're not willing to meet her halfway. She's not bitter, she's clear. Clear about what she wants, clear about what she deserves, and clear about what she will no longer accept. Low-effort behavior shows up in many forms: inconsistent communication, one-sided relationships, lazy apologies, and empty promises. A strong woman sees these red flags for what they are: not puzzles to solve, not games to win, but warnings to walk away. She doesn't beg for attention, chase closure, or plead for consistency. She simply moves on. She understands that love, friendship, respect, and loyalty require effort. Not perfection, but presence. Not grand gestures, but real consistent action. If someone wants to be in her life, they will show it. Not just in words, but in how they show up, how they support, how they prioritize. She doesn't have time for people who only come around when it's convenient. A strong woman doesn't take low effort personally. She doesn't internalize it as a reflection of her worth. She sees it for what it is: a reflection of the other person's capacity, mindset, and priorities. And if that doesn't align with the energy she brings to the table, she knows what to do: she removes the seat. There's no anger in her decision, just awareness. She doesn't argue, doesn't force, doesn't try to fix anyone. She simply chooses not to invest in what doesn't invest back, because her time, her energy, and her emotional labor are valuable currencies, and she only spends them where they are honored and reciprocated. When a woman elevates her standards, the low-effort people naturally fall away, and she doesn't grieve their absence, she respects it. Because every no to low effort is a yes to deeper, more meaningful connections. She knows that saying goodbye to crumbs makes room for the whole meal. She's not asking for too much, she's just done accepting too little. Low effort isn't just lazy, it's disrespect in disguise. And she's not afraid to call it out by no longer participating. She doesn't need to make a scene, her silence speaks volumes. Her absence becomes the consequence. Because when a strong woman stops responding to low effort energy, she reclaims her power without saying a word. Walking away is not weakness, it's wisdom. A strong woman doesn't cling to situations that drain her spirit, disrespect her value, or delay her growth. When she senses that she's no longer being respected, appreciated, or prioritized, she doesn't create chaos, she creates distance. And she does it with quiet strength, not with loud explanations. Walking away with dignity means knowing you could stay and fight, but choosing peace over pride. It means you've weighed the cost of staying and realized your sanity is too expensive to sacrifice. She's not walking away to prove a point, she's walking away because the point has already been proven over and over again. People are often shocked when a strong woman walks away without warning. That's because they confuse her silence for submission. But what they didn't see was all the chances she gave, all the grace she extended, and all the nights she stayed up wondering if she was asking for too much. She wasn't. They were giving too little. She doesn't beg, argue, or try to be understood by those committed to misunderstanding her. She knows when a space no longer honors her presence. And when that moment comes, she leaves without bitterness but with boundaries. Her walk away isn't loud, but it's final. Because she knows that closure is something you give yourself, not something you wait to receive. Walking away with dignity doesn't mean she doesn't feel pain. It just means she refuses to let that pain define her. She lets go without losing herself. She walks away not because she's given up, but because she's decided to choose herself, her peace, her future, her healing. That's the kind of power you can't fake. She's learned that not every battle is worth fighting, and not every person is worth explaining to. Sometimes the most powerful move is to exit quietly and let your absence speak. Because when a woman leaves with her head held high and her heart still intact, she doesn't just end a chapter, she elevates the entire story. And she never looks back with regret, only with gratitude for the lessons, the clarity, and the freedom that walking away brought her. Because for the strong woman, dignity isn't just how she leaves, it's how she lives. She carries herself with the kind of grace that turns every ending into the start of something better. Owning the narrative is a powerful act of self-determination. A strong woman refuses to let others define her story. She's not waiting for validation, approval, or permission to live life on her terms. She understands that her voice is her power, and the moment she starts speaking her truth, she begins to reclaim control over her life, her identity, and her path. In a world that loves to label women, a strong woman chooses to reject those labels. Whether it's too ambitious, too emotional, or too much, she refuses to be confined by anyone's limited perception of who she is. Instead of letting others tell her who she should be, she declares who she is, what she stands for, and how she will show up in this world. She doesn't apologize for her authenticity, it is her strength. When others attempt to dictate her narrative, a strong woman doesn't fight for approval, she fights for truth. She doesn't let anyone diminish her voice or silence her perspective. She knows that no one can speak for her as well as she can. She owns the microphone and refuses to let the noise drown out her message. Her words are deliberate, calculated, and undeniable. Owning the narrative means taking responsibility for your life without letting circumstances or other people dictate your worth. A woman who owns her narrative isn't a victim of her past. She understands that while she can't control everything that happens to her, she can control how she responds, how she grows, and what lessons she carries forward. Her story is hers to tell, not anyone else's to rewrite. It's easy to let people with stronger voices or louder opinions drown out your own. But a strong woman understands the importance of standing firm in her truth. She's not afraid to be seen and heard, even if it means standing alone. She knows that owning her narrative means embracing her full complexity, her wins, her losses, her growth, her mistakes, and owning them with pride. And in owning her narrative, she understands that her journey doesn't need to fit into someone else's timeline or expectations. She defines success not by comparison, but by alignment with her own values. Her narrative is a reflection of her vision, and no one can take that away from her. She doesn't need permission to dream big, to take risks, or to walk her own path, because she is the author of her life. The beauty of owning the narrative is that it's a constant evolution. As she learns, grows, and evolves, so too does her narrative. And with each chapter, she becomes more aligned with her power, more unapologetically herself. Empowering others through example is one of the most powerful forms of leadership. A strong woman knows that her actions speak louder than her words. While she may offer advice, share wisdom, or provide support, it's her consistent behavior, her resilience, and her ability to rise above that truly inspire others to do the same. She leads by example, not by force. When she chooses to walk her own path with confidence, she inadvertently lights the way for others to follow. She doesn't wait for someone to tell her she's capable. She shows the world what's possible by simply living her truth. Her success becomes the proof that what may seem impossible is in fact achievable. By owning her journey, she gives others permission to do the same. A strong woman doesn't just empower through motivational speeches, she empowers through her presence. When others see her handle challenges with grace, overcome obstacles with determination, and stay true to her values despite the odds, they are reminded that they too have the strength to face their own battles. Her authenticity becomes a beacon, showing that true power lies in embracing who you are. Empowerment isn't always about lifting others through grand gestures, it's in the small, everyday decisions. It's in the woman who stays committed to her dreams, the mother who juggles her passions and responsibilities, the friend who chooses to speak up for what's right. Her quiet acts of strength teach others that they can rise above their circumstances, no matter how tough life may seem. Ultimately, a strong woman knows that empowering others doesn't diminish her own power, it amplifies it. By encouraging others to reach their full potential, she creates a ripple effect that extends far beyond her own sphere of influence. She becomes part of a larger movement, one where women lift each other up, encourage one another, and collectively rise. Because strong women don't shrink to make others comfortable, we rise, and we bring others with us. Thank you.